Today we'll be animating electricity, and this is a foundational 3D fixed animation workshop. So we won't be doing anything fancy or too difficult, because the goal of this is to kind of ease you into the animation and into the effects, since it's a pretty complex and pretty different field compared to character animation. So electricity is probably the simplest of all the effects, and it is very forgiving. So you can't really make that many mistakes. You can make it slightly less interesting, but for the most part, it will still work. So that's why we'll be dealing with electricity and specifically charges. Very bright energy that is created from extreme charges in the air or not in the air. And for our purposes, what's important is that these charges, they actually move really fast. And by really fast, I mean thousands of times per second. So when you see a lightning bolt in the sky during the thunderstorm, what you're actually seeing is one of 1,000 charges. So that's why sometimes you see that there's something light up, but you don't see the charge because it happens so fast that you only see the aftermath without seeing the charge itself. The charges happen fast, but the changes in charges can happen slowly. So you can have a very fast change in shape or in motion, and then you can have a really slow, really gradual changes. And this helps us build contrast. Electricity is generally pretty chaotic, which is represented by these things. Wave principle, which is kind of an artificial concept, but it helps us animate scenes. What does it mean? So usually scenes are transferred in a certain pattern. And you've seen waves on the ground during earthquakes, maybe. You've definitely seen waves on the ocean or on the sea. And these waves, they travel in some direction. So electricity, especially with charges, we see these traveling waves, and energy travels. And it is especially clear with more simplified examples, which we'll show a bit later. So here we are tracking these kind of big areas, big points. So this scene, we're moving it to the right. So let's draw the scene appearing. This scene increasing in size and going to the left. This scene goes to the right. Sorry, to the right, yeah, to the right. This scene decreases in size, it kind of goes to this point, closer. Now, let's add one more frame. So now we start creating this upper part. This thing goes up. And this part that we already had goes to the bottom, increase inside of it, in size. This part goes here. And for electricity, we don't really have to worry about precise shape and form. It can change. So we have something like this. Okay. Now let's continue. So the wave keeps going. The scene increases in size, goes to the right, goes to the right. The scene starts to decrease in size. And for example, we have something like this. Okay, the scene, we create a new wave at the bottom. We keep moving this wave to the right, keep moving this wave to the right, and we keep moving this one to the right. Okay, so now we have to think about looping it. So to loop animation, our first frame should match with our last frame in terms of spacing. So the distance that it travels between frames and the shape that it arrives should match. So for example, we have the shape here and the shape here. So the previous frame, if we imagine it, would be a frame where this part is somewhere over here, so it is more to the left. This part is more to the left. This part is more to the left. And this part is more to the left. So let's copy that and let's paste it here. And let's see, okay, so how many frames do we need to have something like that? Okay, I think we can use this shape, and this shape should become this shape. So in order for that to happen, we can roughly calculate the distance. How? So with each frame, our form travels around this amount of space, this distance. We can let it accelerate a bit in the middle. So we need at least 2 more frames. So let's do 2 more frames here. So let's do frame 1. This shape increases, this shape goes forward. This shape goes forward to the right. And let's do 1 more frame. And for this one, let's see. Okay, so we have this light table. And now we can see how to transition between these 2 frames so that the forms arrive where they need to. Okay. And now we'll color this in the right color. Okay, so now we have this. Let's disable this part. Okay, now we have this. It's a wave. It's not really electricity yet, and it's a bit too fast. So let's put it on 2s, on 12 frames per second for now. So now let's make an electricity out of it. So how do we make it more electrical? So coming back to our nodes, going back to our nodes, we can add flickering. So if we want to add flickering, what does it mean? So the simplest way, and not the best way, but still working, we can delete every second drawing if we held the frames on 2s. So we show 1 drawing and 1 empty cell. 1 drawing, 1 empty cell. And this creates flickering, which will already give us some kind of definition of electricity. It looks kind of broken up in space, and we have some kind of on and off, on and off, on and off. So this already gives us something. Now I'll save this and duplicate the layer just in case. Now let's add the second thing, which was the first thing. So fast versus slow. So now everything is fast and nothing is slow. So let's add, in some places, instead of an empty frame, we'll add a slower motion or a slower change between the frames. So for example, here we'll add a frame instead of an empty one where it moves, but just a bit. And here we'll add a frame which, let's add a frame here, which is a bit closer to the first frame than to the second frame. Okay. So now we're not skipping every frame. Instead, we have a frame, slower frame. We have a frame, empty frame. We have a frame, slower frame, frame, empty frame. let's keep this empty, keep this as is, keep this as is, and let's add a frame here which is closer to the second frame, the green one. So what does it give us? It will give us uneven motion. Okay, so now the motion is a bit uneven. And now let's truly make it chaotic. So electricity is rarely this perfectly round or anything like that. So let's keep this base shape, but let's add some stuff on top. So what kind of shapes do we imagine when we think about electricity? It's something like chaotic, rough, maybe pointy shapes. So something like this. Maybe we can add some fun transitions like that. Maybe we can break it up a bit and add some thick parts where the form goes much bolder, much more visibly. We can make some shapes that are very broken up. And here. And then we'll add an extra step. So we're not worrying about precisions, we're just having fun for now. Okay, now we have something more chaotic. We have some flickering, and we have the wave transition. Now, can we make it even more electrical? And the answer is yes. So we only added some chaos and some changes to the drawings, but we haven't changed the motion really. And if we look at our examples, especially this one, so what is the difference here? So the form changes. It's not a constant wave. There are some wave transitions, and then there are transitions that are more straight. There are some parts that are more like triangles. There are some parts which change the shape quite a bit. So we can start at this. And for example, I just want to make this a bit straighter at this part. So this part, it goes and the wave goes forward, but some parts of the wave become much more straight. And I still worry about keeping the energy going. So it still goes, it just goes in a slightly different shape. And then it can come and becomes this big wave. And now to make it more interesting, we'll make this part more flat and less even. And here we can let it become more even here. And here, let's make something wild. So maybe it pushes here, becomes bigger, and goes kind of rotating around this point. So it rotates, and it comes back here. And we go here. Now this is something more like electricity.
Enroll in traditional 2D animation today and start bringing your ideas to life. Visit animationclub.school/courses to get started.